Hey guys, I'm Kyle Gibson, a pitcher with the Texas Rangers, and today I've got my two little ones, Mills here and Hayden joining me,
Hi.
and we're gonna read a couple books. I hope you guys really enjoy it. I'm sorry that everybody's having to sit in their house a little bit, but we got a couple of favorites, one from Hayden and one from Mills that we want to read you guys today. So hopefully you guys enjoy them. The first one is Balto the Hero, picked out by Hayden. Come on, Boris, Balto shouted to the old Russian snow goose. We don't want to miss the end of the race. Boris struggled to keep up with his friend. Every time there's a race, you run around like you were in it. Maybe one day I will be, Balto said. Balto dreamed of being a sled dog, but he was half wolf, and nobody in Nome, Alaska wanted a wolf dog on their dog sled team. Still, that didn't stop Balto. He never missed a sled race, even if it meant only watching from the sidelines. Rosie and her dog Jenna loved the sled races too. Come on, Rosie cheered. She took off her hat and waved it as the lead sled came into view. Then suddenly a strong wind whipped the hat out of Rosie's hand and sent it into the middle of the street. Balto saw it all. Without a second thought, he raced out into the street right in front of the barreling dog sled team. Oh no, Rosie gasped. Poor Balto. But before anyone could blink, Balto scooped up Rosie's hat and raced safely back across the street. He handed it to Rosie and smiled shyly at Jenna. What a crazy thing to do, Rosie said. She looked back at Jenna, who was grinning, just to show off her pretty dog. Then Rosie felt a heavy hand on her shoulder. Rosie, it was her father. Stay away from that dog. He might bite you. He's half wolf, he said, waving a broom fiercely. Balto turned and sadly walked away from Rosie and Jenna. The grown-ups were wrong. Balto knew he wasn't bad. He just wished there was some way he could prove it. A few days later, Balto saw Jenna alone outside the hospital. Here was his chance. Jenna seemed so nice. Maybe now they could be friends. But when Balto came closer, he saw that Jenna was crying. Jenna, what's wrong? Balto asked. Rosie's in there, Jenna told him. She's really sick. What's wrong with her, Balto? Balto climbed up beside Jenna and looked inside. The doctor was taking Rosie's temperature. He frowned. Rosie's fever is very high, the doctor told Rosie's parents, and I don't like the sound of her cough. What do you think it is, doctor? Rosie's father asked. Looks like diphtheria, the doctor answered. He shook his head, and I'm out of medicine. The next morning, the doctor sent out an important telegram to Anchorage. Urgent. Stop. More diphtheria medicine. Stop. Nome in grave danger. Stop. But getting more medication wasn't going to be easy. The biggest snowstorm in years had hit Alaska. No trains or planes would be able to get through. There was only one way to get the medicine, by dog sled. So the town held a race to see which dogs were the fastest. I'm going to run in that race, Balto told Boris. He knew he was fast. He knew he could win. He had to help Rosie no matter what. On your mark. Get set. Go. The dogs ran and ran and ran. Suddenly, Balto burst ahead of the pack and sped across the finish line first. But the other dogs turned their backs on him. Get out of here, wolf dog. Steele, the lead dog, gnarled. We don't want you on our team. That very night, the rescue team took off without Balto. At first, it all went well. The team picked up the medicine without any trouble, but the trip home was not easy. It began to snow harder and harder, and the heavy snow blinded the team and covered their trail. Steele, one of the dogs shouted, we're lost. Maybe we should turn around. But Steele wouldn't listen. I am not lost, he growled. Back in Nome, everyone was worried. The team had missed their second checkpoint. Steele's that dog right there. They had lost the trail. Balto paced back and forth outside the hospital. Through the window, he could see Rosie and Jenna. Rosie looked tired. Balto had to do something. He had to find the team and bring the medicine back. So later that night with his friends, Boris and Muck and Luke, two polar bear cubs, Balto headed off into the dark, snowy wilderness.
Dark, snowy wilderness.
Sniff, sniff. Balto put his nose to the ground. Steele and his team had been there. This way, Balto shouted to the cubs, and Boris, in a howling wind. They trudged past some trees and around a big rock. Then Balto stopped. All of a sudden, He felt someone was watching him. Growl. A grizzly bear. He lunged at Balto with one huge paw. Balto could see the bear's long claws gleaming. Balto jumped in just in time and clamped his sharp teeth on the bear's leg. Growl! The bear roared in pain, and he flung Balto off of him. Balto flew through the air and crashed against a tree. He sank into the ground, and the bear came closer. Oh no, was Balto done for? Nope. Just then, another shape came charging out of nowhere. It was Jenna. She pounced on the bear and sank her teeth into his shoulder. Roar, growl! The bear growled again, angrier than ever. He slashed at Jenna's leg and knocked her away too. By now, Balto was back on his feet, ready to defend Jenna. The bear lunged and the two tumbled down a steep ravine onto the frozen river. Crack! The ice was breaking. Jenna, Boris, and the cubs gathered at the top of the ravine. They watched as the bear struggled to get back to shore, but it was too late. Whoosh! The icy river swallowed up the bear before their eyes, and Balto too. Balto! Boris and Jenna cried. Geronimo! Muck and Luke splashed into the water. That's Muck and Luke. They splashed into the water after Balto. Jenna and Boris looked down, up and down the river. Where are they? Jenna cried. Finally, Luke burst through the ice. Then Muck and Balto popped up like corks after him. Coughing and shivering, together the cubs dragged Balto to shore.
These polar bears can swim, right?
Yes, they can. I was so scared, Boris told Balto. I got people bumps. Then Jenna spoke up. I saw your tracks in the snow and I had to follow you, she explained. But Jenna could not go on. Her bear wound was worse than she had thought. You must go without me, she told Balto. Rosie is depending on you. Then she slipped off. Oh, Rosie, sorry. Rosie is depending on you. Then she slipped off her bright red bandana and gave it to Balto. Balto smiled and turned to his friends, Muck and Luke. And you pulled Jenna back to town, he said. And Boris, you lead them. As Balto watched his friends walk off through the snow, he felt lonely and a little scared. But he also knew he had a job to do. He had to find the lost sled team and the medicine fast. He snipped a tree and headed off alone. Balto came to the top of yet another hill and sniffed the air. Could it be? Balto looked down in the valley, and yes, there they were, the lost sled team. Balto raced down the ravine. The other dogs could hardly believe their eyes. Balto, they cried, how did you find us? How do we get home? I marked the trail, Balto told him. Now, follow me, I can lead you. Back in Nome, Rosie's family waited and worried while Boris, Muck, and Luke kept a lookout from their old fishing boat home. Suddenly, they heard a howl in the distance. It sounded like Balto! Breaking through a hill of snow, he proudly led the sled team and the medicine into town. He threw his head back and howled again. Ow! The whole town rushed out into the street. Hooray, they cried. Hooray for Balto. Not dog, not wolf, Boris told his friend. You are a hero. The doctor carefully lifted the box of medicine from the sled and carried it into the hospital to give it to the children. Balto stood hopefully by Rosie's bed. At last, she opened her eyes and smiled. Balto, she said, I'd be lost without you. Rosie's father patted Balto on the head. We'd all be lost without you, Balto, Rosie's father said. Then Jenna came over to Balto. I knew you'd make it back, she told him. I'm glad you believed in me, Balto said. Then they softly touched noses, together and happy at last. The end.
Now we go read that book.